Hi, welcome to Fostering Resilience. My name is KJ Foster, and in today's video, I'm talking about step 12 from the program Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm going to be sharing with you the three different aspects of step 12, and this is a part of my series that's all about 12-step recovery. If you haven't watched the playlist from the very beginning, there's a link in the description that you can click on. There's also a card, a white card that's going to run across the top of the screen. You can click on that white card or the link in the description. That will take you over to my playlist and you can watch it from the very beginning. If you're watching this video from my Facebook page, there won't be the white card, so you'll have to click on the description below to hop on over to my YouTube channel. And speaking of social media, if you would like to connect with me on social media, I'm under Dr. KJ Foster on all platforms and would love to connect with you and get to know you. I also run a comment challenge on all my videos in an effort to get to know you, and you could win, if you leave me a comment, you could win a shout out in my next video, or you could win a $50 gift card that I give away at the end of every single month. So please leave me a comment, help me to get to know you. Today's video, though, I'm talking about step 12, and I'm going to be talking specifically about the three different parts to step 12. At the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing with you a free resource. It's my way of giving back, thanking you for watching my videos. So definitely stick around for the end of the video to get that free resource. But coming up right now, we're going to be talking about step 12. All right, so really quick, just in case you're somebody who is watching my channel, my video for the very first time, just to tell you a little bit about myself. I am someone who, again, my name is KJ Foster, and I am someone who has achieved long-term recovery from an addiction to alcohol. What does long-term mean? In my opinion, it means over 10 years. I just celebrated 11 years of sobriety recovery. And I'm also someone who has achieved a license in mental health counseling, I'm certified as an addiction professional. I specialize in relapse prevention, and I also have a PhD in counselor education, and above all, everything, I consider myself to be an educator. It's my mission, my passion, to educate people about addiction recovery. My dissertation research was on a relapse prevention program that I developed, and that centers around shame and the impact of shame on addiction and addiction recovery. I've worked with thousands of individuals and families to help them to overcome addiction, and I believe very wholeheartedly that the whole family is in recovery, and by each and every person in the family focusing on their own recovery process, then that makes it just that much more probable that the individual is going to recover, the family members are going to recover, and everybody is going to achieve a successful recovery. Okay, I know you're saying like, all right already, KJ, let's just get to step 12. So finally, step 12. First of all, what is step 12? Step 12 is this: having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry the message to other alcoholics and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. So I'm going to, like I said, there's three parts of it, okay? There's the having had the spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, then there's carrying the message to other alcoholics, and then there's practicing the principles in all our affairs. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to address each of those in reverse order, because I believe that the having had the spiritual awakening as a result of the steps is really like, you know, the thing that dictates like everything else. But I first want to address, let's look at the practice. So because, you know, some people might disagree with me. I think some people say they focus on, okay, having had this spiritual awakening, you know, you can't really do the other things until you've had the spiritual awakening. I've heard some people, you know, claim that, and I'm somebody that doesn't believe that that's true at all. Just like I shared with you in the last video on the steps, which is step 11, you don't have to wait to get to step 11 to start practicing your prayer and your meditation. So similarly, you know, this practice part, this idea of practice, let's look at that first, okay? So practicing the principles in all our affairs. I believe that recovery in general, like, is all about practice. Everything in life, is all about practice. And when it comes to, going from one, literally for me, it was like going from one lifestyle to a completely new and different lifestyle. Going from this lifestyle of everything centering around drinking, everything centering, my addiction really like just taking control and dictating everything, to this whole new life, right? Of this whole new lifestyle of living alcohol free. There's a lot of change that takes place in that, and that change happens through practice. And what it's referring to in the 12th step is the practice of things like the spiritual principles. So you're practicing, love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, like all of those spiritual principles. And if you're someone who hasn't done the steps, you may not really understand what those principles are. You may think that you understand, but in my opinion, it's just really about practicing all of the things that you've come to learn about yourself, okay, through the process of the steps. So it absolutely is about practicing spirituality, but I think that a lot of people come into recovery not knowing what spirituality is, or being very confused about spirituality, or thinking their religion is spirituality, when religion is just a way in which people choose to practice their spirituality. Spirituality is really about a way of being. It's like drawing out all of the positive, your true nature. Your true nature is good. It's goodness, it's love. Everything stems from a place of love, and it's what we choose to practice, right? So what we focus on grows. So what we practice becomes stronger. And so by practicing the spiritual principles of love and compassion and forgiveness and gratitude and all of those positive principles, then we're going to naturally grow stronger in those areas. So absolutely, it's about practicing all of the principles that you learn through doing the 12 steps. Okay, so one more point about this aspect of the 12th step, the practice part, okay? So thinking about addiction in terms of how it takes over your mindset, right? And it's a mental disease, right? It's a mental disorder. And my thinking, I'll just use myself as an example, my thinking became completely distorted. And along with that distortion, it became completely negative, okay? I'm in this negative mindset, and my outlook on life is completely negative, and everything is tainted by that, okay? So everything I experience is coming from the lens of negativity. And so through doing the 12 steps, I learned how to basically, reprogram my thinking to go from that place of a diseased mind, of this negativity that was fueled by my drinking, okay? So the drinking is what came into play in terms of distorting my whole perception on life and becoming this miserable person. And so through doing the steps, I'm able to clear that all up, and slowly, because it doesn't happen quickly, it's a process. And for me, it happened slowly, where I finally, through practicing, redirecting my thinking and learning about myself and, the character defects, and cleaning up the wreckage of my past, I'm able to start from this clean slate. And so why this is important is because, now I practice on a daily basis the gratitude, the love, the compassion, the forgiveness. And I know that when I'm in a place of judgment, when I'm in a place of anger, when I'm in a place of self-pity, that's taking me closer to a drink or a drug. And so I have to be very aware of and observant of when those feelings and that mental outlook starts to come back into play. So I'm practicing the principles so that I'm not then taken back to this place that could put me at risk for picking up a drink or a drug. And so thinking in terms of, I've heard it said that, you have a horse thief who's an alcoholic, and you take away the alcohol and they're still a horse thief. And so the idea is to not be a horse thief anymore. And if you're in sobriety and you're still a horse thief and you're still doing these things, and I don't mean you have to be like a thief, but anything, like if you're doing things that are not in line with sober thinking, sober feelings, sober actions, that anything that you do that's not sober in those realms, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, will put you at risk for going back to the drink or the drug. So I hope that makes sense. And now a really quick shout out to my comment challenge winner from last week's video, and that is Mary Monaco. Congratulations, Mary Monaco. Thank you so much for leaving me a comment and for supporting my channel. And you and others who have left me a comment are now entered into a drawing to win potentially a $50 gift card at the end of the month. So if you are somebody watching who has not left me a comment yet, please do. Help me to get to know you, and you could win $50 at the end of the month. Okay, now let's talk about the middle part, the second aspect of the 12th step, which is we carry the message. We tried to carry the message to other alcoholics. And I believe that the word tried is in there because this is where recognizing that we can only try to convey the message, and that there are some people who are just not ready or not willing to hear it. Just like, you know, there are people that you're going to meet who are going to relapse. And, you know, as long as you're trying to carry the message, that you don't really have control over that. You don't cause it, although there are ways in which we can contribute to relapse. And it's important to be very careful about that, because that's where I think an important question is, what message are you carrying? Are you carrying the mess, or are you carrying the message? The message being that, you know, you can recover and live like your best life. You know, you can thrive in recovery by relying on, you know, a higher power and, you know, multiple sources of power. I've come to, and this is where I'll talk more about this in having had the spiritual awakening. But what are you carrying? Like, are you carrying the mess, or are you carrying the message? And this is where the people that say you can't really, you know, that the first part of this, having had the spiritual awakening, is essential to the other two parts. And I agree when it comes to carrying the message, because if you haven't had a spiritual awakening, then you have to be really careful about what message you're carrying. And the fact of the matter is that it may take doing the steps more than one time to have a spiritual awakening. It may take outside help in order to get to a point where you've had a spiritual awakening. And so one last point that I'd like to make about this idea of carrying the message and carrying the message versus the mess. Well, 2 points. Number one is, unless you're coming from a place of love, compassion, forgiveness, and all of those positive spiritual principles, then you're carrying the mess, okay? Anything other than that is the mess. Like, that is the spiritual principles, like that's the message. And then the other point that I want to make is, you know, I'm somebody who definitely people might refer to as being a 12-stepper. I'm very open about the fact that I'm a member of a 12-step program, that 12-step recovery absolutely saved my life, changed my life. But I also am someone who believes that you can get and stay sober using other programs. My big thing is that you have a program, that you're working a program, that you're participating in the program, that you're engaging with the other people in the program, and that's where the power is. Like, you need to have a program, just like, you know, when it comes to your higher power. Like, I don't care what you believe, you can believe whatever you want to believe. To me, it's more important that you just believe in something. So it's the same kind of principle. And why is this important? It's important because when it comes to like meetings, so the meetings of your tribe, the meetings of your group, it's really important that when you get to a place where you are recovered, where you are thriving, that you still attend those meetings on a regular basis, because the reality is that If you are in a bad place, you need a meeting. And if you're in a good place, the meeting needs you, because the other people in there need to hear the message. And if they're going to a meeting and they're only hearing the mess, then that's what turns people away from 12-step recovery. And there are so many people who have achieved long-term recovery and they wind up falling away from the 12-step program because they, they're living their lives and they're living great lives and they feel like they don't need it anymore. Well, maybe they don't need it anymore. Maybe I don't need it anymore, but other people, and I'm not saying I don't need it anymore because I definitely do, but they, I think it's a common thing for people to get complacent and to think that they don't need to go to meetings anymore, but they don't think about the people that are at the meeting that need them. And I emphasize this in treatment as well. When people want to leave treatment, I'm like, it's not all about you. There may be somebody here in treatment that needs you, that your higher power, God, the universe has positioned you here because they need to meet you. But we're so, this is where next I'll talk about the spiritual awakening, which is going from this place of self-centeredness to other focus. So let's get to that. Okay, now finally, the most important aspect of the 12th step, in my opinion, which is having had the spiritual awakening. And in reality, the entire point, the entire purpose, the end result of the 12 steps, in doing the 12 steps, is to achieve the spiritual awakening. And I think that scares some people, especially if you have had, negative experiences with religion, because this is not about religion. This is about spirituality. And there's a place in the Big Book which the Big Book is, the text for the Alcoholics Anonymous program, that talks about the spiritual awakening and what that means. And I can just tell you what it means to me and how I experienced it. And how I experienced it is going from the place, like I just mentioned in the previous segment, of being completely consumed with self. Everything being all about me and my desires and my designs on the world and what I wanted to achieve, to being other focused. And it was like, I can describe it as like my lens on life completely shifting and completely changing. And also another important aspect relative to my own spiritual awakening was recognizing that there's this power, okay, and I don't have to define it. I just call it power, like there's a power that's greater than me, and that power resides within me. And it also is outside of me, and that the more that I build a relationship with that power, meaning I build a relationship with myself and I connect with the power within me and I connect with this power outside of myself, the more that I do that, the more that I rely on that power and trust that power, the more powerful I become in terms of my ability to, have a healthy relationship with myself, have a healthy relationship with others. Everything about my life becomes better. I have less anxiety, less depression, less of all of the negative, emotions. And I have this desire to live a sober life, to conduct myself through sober actions, and to build, healthy, meaningful relationships with other people, and to really be able to contribute to life rather than constantly be focused on what can I get from life? What is life going to give me? It's so much more about what I can contribute to life, because what I can contribute to life is really this reciprocal relationship of feeling good of when I help another person, or I'm just putting something really positive into the universe. So that is how I describe my own spiritual awakening, but I think that there are probably as many definitions of a spiritual awakening out there. There's multiple, but the bottom line is that as a result of the steps, I believe that 12-step recovery, 12-step program is something that anyone and everyone can benefit from, because it really does just make you a better person, and it makes you a happier person in the long run. And finally, I promised you a gift, and I have that for you. I have a downloadable resource, which is basically like a summary chart of spirituality relative to the 12 steps. So you can go ahead and click on the link in the description and download that, and hopefully you'll find that to be beneficial. And it talks about in there, about peace, and how the whole overarching, goal in terms of spirituality is the attainment of peace, and that peace equals power, and that ultimately once you've achieved that peace, once you've achieved that power, that the idea is that you share it with other people, and you share with you how that power has positively impacted your life and can positively impact theirs. So I do hope you enjoy that. I have other free resources that are in the description as well, so please take advantage of those. And if you've liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please click on the red subscribe now button, and this bell will pop up, and if you click on that bell, then you will be alerted to all of my new upcoming videos. I post videos every Monday, so please join me back here next time, and in the meantime, remember, recovery changes everything. Namaste.